Welcome to Conversations Aloud. Today, we're discussing the challenges that America is facing at the moment. And boy, does it look like there's a lot of challenges, and where those challenges truly come from. Our guest is Tony L., a writer and an advocate for truth. He believes America's greatest threat isn't China, it ain't Russia, but Americans themselves, specifically the lack of knowledge among the population. So we'll dive into what that knowledge or lack of knowledge really is in relation to. He's also the host of the Project Third Eye Open podcast, where he explores deeper truths about history and identity. Welcome to the show, Tony.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on, Habib. Thank you very much. I'm
Great.
looking forward to a very spirited conversation here.
Same over here, really. Same over here. So great to have you on. To start off things, to kick things off, do you think that America is in this kind of Roman Empire moment of decadence, of division and decline, or is that just an exaggeration by the media?
No. Actually, I've done a couple of productions on this very topic. Actually, I did do one. I think it's remembering Rome or something like that. The lessons of Rome. Um, History, as it says, often often rhymes, not just repeats. And when you know your history, you be able to see the similarities because nothing's new under the sun. Literally, nothing's new under the sun. And when you look at empires before, I think it's been said that the longest empires was 200 years. Um, we're well over that. So we are definitely, some would say, riding on fumes. And it's only due to the fact of so many people, our leaders before, had real reverence for our Constitution. Our Constitution is the longest living governmental document ever and still in existence. England has had several new ones. France has had several new ones. Many countries, Russia has definitely had many rewrites of the Constitution. The United States have had that one, and that's a testament to the people, because it's at the end of the day, the Constitution is just a piece of paper. It's really up to the people to live by it, revere it, enforce it when need be. We don't have that anymore. So
What do you mean by
largely,
that? We don't have that anymore.
I was going to say largely because it's not taught. Lincoln once said, "What's taught in the school in one generation will be the policies of the next." And we no longer teach about Constitution. When I was growing up, I'm 1965 baby. The Constitution was taught. We did plays on the 13 colonies. It was in literature. It was in entertainment. It was in Reagan. Again, I have Reagan's most famous, what I think famous monologue on my intro. He was the last president, to my recollection, to really speak boldly and fondly about patriotism, Americanism, and what it stands, what it means to basically say freedom is only a generation from being taken out of existence. And that's where we are. We are past a generation, in my estimation, because young people don't talk about Constitution. Young people from the last two particular Democrat administrations have been told to hate our founding, tear down our statues, call Thomas Jefferson and everybody else racist. All this other nonsense that America is a racist country. All this other, there's totally unfounded nonsense, gibberish, but nobody puts back on in public. So it stands as truth in so many young people's minds. You have more people now to 19 to 30 want to be socialists. That was been unheard of in my generation growing up, because we know that this is the greatest country on the planet, with all of its warts, with all of its imperfections. No other country stand up against the United States when it comes to the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, so you're what you're saying is that it's the education of what the Constitution is that's failing, America and what's causing this kind of Roman Empire kind of process, this kind of event that's happening. Is that intentional that people are not being educated about that? Because it seems like it was there, and suddenly people don't understand what the issue is about. Who's do you have any idea of why that is, where this is coming from?
Sure, sure, sure. I mean, America in its creation was designed against the popular notion at the time. Because if people understand that all other countries before the United States was established dealt with monarchy. England, European powers, either monarchy or they had tyrannical rulers. There's a country that can not only say that man could govern himself, that they can succeed at doing so and dominate the world by doing so. America is like less than 5% of the world population, but we have dominated the world since particularly World War One. Right now, if you understand, Europe, the European powers came together to create their own United States per se in EU for that purpose to combat United States supremacy, and that has not gone well. Either economically, militarily, socially, culturally, America still dominates. Um, as a country whose history is built on controlling men, America had to be taken out. And particularly after World War II, where our educational system has been turned upside down to no longer teach the greatness of our country, either academically, socially, anywhere. Um, is really is coming full circle now when you look at again how the educational system has completely abandoned civics, has abandoned while their domestic citizens are catching hell. That would never been allowed, not even being thought of 10, 20, 30 years ago, but it's done out in the open because the love and reverence for our country has been so demonized. Nobody wants to stand up for our country anymore. Everybody stands up for the flag, doing sporting events and 4th of July, all this other nonsense. But really counts for people to stand on the square. They're nowhere to be seen. And the feminization of our culture has definitely aided to that because men do not know how to be men anymore.
Mm. So just to you said a lot of things there. Just to kind of go back to the intentionality of this, of what do you feel is in charge of changing the education system, and why would they do that if it weakens the country?
It doesn't destroy the country. It weakens the country. Again, the ultimate goal is to bring the United States to the table, not at the head of the table, but in in the middle. They don't want the United States to be that shining light on the hill. You don't see a reflection of American values. You see a reflection of more socialist, if not more communist values, as opposed to American individualism values. So you can't have a country who strides in individualism dominating the world. So you got to bring that country down to bring them to the table in a community setting, like pretty much the previous president was all for, leading from behind. Where this president is totally opposite of that. He wants to lead from the front, which America has always done outside of Biden and Obama administrations.
Yeah. So you said there about individualism, which is what America's about, and then collectivism, which is what other nations may be about. Is there something wrong with thinking about the collective, about something bigger than just the individual?
It's relative, right? So, like with you or anyone, if someone threatens my family, we got a problem, you know. But my neighbor, it depends on how close we are. um, what their intentions are and how does that benefit me. If it if it's detrimental to me, I got a problem with that.
It's interesting because in Europe, it is quite different to the US. You know, some people in Europe will look at the US and be like, yeah, okay, US is number one from a economic perspective, from a financial perspective. They dominate. They're the powerhouse from a military perspective, obviously too. But from a life kind of balance perspective, a lot of people in the West look at America as, wow, they're just crazy workaholics working all the time, thinking about it, like a lot of too much competition. Let's say it's competition on steroids, which obviously, as everything, has benefits and drawbacks. The benefits is that you get to innovate, you get to create businesses and create economic growth. But at the same
That's
time,
bad, right? All that that's bad.
that's
Y'all
the good
hate when
part.
you
That's
do
the good
that.
part.
Oh, okay, that's a good part. You sure? Are you
Yeah,
sure?
that's the good part.
Are you sure? Okay.
But then from a health perspective, you look at kind of the health of the society, and it's kind of like
That's different. That's different. See, that's the thing. We could talk about one thing in one conversation, but the health situation is totally different. America government is in the bed with pharmaceuticals. So America's health system is not a health system. It's a pharmaceutical after it's a post health system. It's not a pre health system. Europe, I've been to Europe a couple of times, and y'all are more on a pre health system. Y'all want to keep y'all's citizens healthy, but we got to understand we can have two different conversations. Socialist systems, by definition, government pays for everything. So is it for the benefit of government to have people more sick in a socialist system? No. So that's why, for right or wrong, the socialist system has more emphasis to keep their citizens healthy. That's a good thing for the individual. But for a doctor, there is a glass ceiling as far as being um, coming up with new ideas, new inventions. Where over here we don't have that glass ceiling, but to our detriment, there's money in people being sick over here because of how the system is created to work. So my argument: a healthy society benefits everybody, even in a capitalist system. But many people want to lump the conversation together when you should keep it separate. Does that make sense?
it makes sense. It's more of you have a point there in terms of there's a issue with the pharmaceutical industry, uh, wanting people to be sick because it's profitable.
Everything's economics,
But that's
particularly.
why, like in the West, for in the Europe, sorry, there's higher regulation to kind of stop this from happening. But obviously, in a lot of instances, there's too much regulation, which again is
See that? So my point is, people want to draw negatives to our country, but our negatives, to me, are more fixable because the individual still has the power to wake up any morning and change their path, the direction. The voter, if they choose to, could do the same thing if they choose to, but having the freedom of choice is a double-edged sword.
mm,
But in the socialist country, individuals don't have that because the government is the supreme authority. Even in constitutions, the government has the last right to say yes or no. That's why they had created bureaus to decide how if a citizen is going to receive medicine after a certain age because it's just not profitable for them. So there's double-edged swords in both instances, but America's is fixable to me.
yeah. I think we need to differentiate between kind of pure socialist countries and in Europe, it's kind of there is a bit of socialism, but it's a capital kind of economy, um, whereby there's a lot of support from the government, but you're able to do what there's a lot of independence, and you could create wealth.
but the government has the final say so because monarchical culture, where all Europeans come from, the king always had the final say, and that has not changed. It's lessened some because economics, because in your democracy, capitalism is able to thrive to a point, just to a point. Whereas over here, omegas are able to thrive to whatever the aspirations are. Social system always gonna have a glass ceiling because government always have to have the final say. And if what their actions are detrimental to government, government is gonna come down, crack down on them.
Well, I mean, I see that being, you know, applied to the UK and the US in very similar ways, whereby I mean, at the end of the day, the government in the US dictates the law and it kind of creates policy.
No, no. In the United States, America, the individual has the final say. Remember, the
Well,
people in America,
they vote the politicians in, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
through that, which is the same in the UK. I mean, technically in the UK, the king has the final say, but the king just accepts what Parliament approves and who votes Parliament in.
You have people in the UK being arrested for speaking. That would never happen in the United States. And the Constitution gives far more dispersed for based on the betterment of the individual than does the government. You have people in the UK being arrested for speech, for carrying the flag.
So I would say that yes, some people have been arrested for sharing things online that the
Speech.
policy, yeah, for
Speech.
speech that has been interpreted, the law has been interpreted in a particular way whereby this is a new thing where this is happening. But in terms of carrying their flag, I don't think that's ever happened where they're arrested for carrying their flag. I think I haven't seen that. But there is an issue here at this moment, especially at the past 2 to 3 years, about speech and what's being shared online, which is
We don't
quite,
have that problem over here.
yeah, yeah, over there.
to to that degree. I mean, we do have some shadow banding and the last administration, off the chain. But if the individuals know what their rights are here, they will be able to put government in check. But if they don't know, then that's a you problem.
And you say that you feel that that is the biggest threat? Is the kind of ignorance
Yes,
that's the biggest
yes,
threat?
yes,
So what
yes.
do Americans misunderstand the most? Is it their history or what you're alluding to, which is their rights?
It's
Or
not a misunderstanding. It's a miseducation. They don't know what the Constitution is.
just a lack of
Uh,
awareness even of what the Constitution.
Knowledge,
Yeah.
knowledge. I mean, I'm quite sure you've seen these YouTube videos where somebody stops an average American at the beach or on the street, and they're asking them basic questions about the founding of this country, and they are clueless. The young people could care less. All they want to do is party, because you think everything that they have, that they're benefiting from today came out of ether. They have no understanding of the concept that it took work. A lot of people died for this country in recent times, but they totally take it for granted that this is always going to be the way it is, and they ain't got to do nothing to secure it. They ain't got to read about it. They ain't got to know about it. They just want to take advantage of it. And that's going to come to an end soon.
Yeah. It's kind of that saying where, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. It's a cycle. It's definitely a cycle. So, what do you feel is the solution to get out of this cycle? I mean, it seems like the obvious answer is education, but why is there a failure in just solving that?
Failure, it's not a failure. A failure would denote a will to do otherwise. This is a deliberate, orchestrated attack and destruction of America from its fundamental basis. There's no other way, because I mentioned this in my recent podcast. The creator created things to be progressive. You know, one generation learn from another generation, learn from another generation.
But is I
And
mean, a lot of people will hear that and say, "Isn't America in charge?" Because it's the number one country, it's the most powerful country in the world. So why is that internal destruction happening?
when you have a world order that is built on the controlling of people, you cannot have a country that goes against that, and not only goes against that, but dominates them in doing so, showing that men giving the giving say, well, I can make this rigid and make money on it. That I'll do that. How many rigids do you want me to make? And that gives them the freedom to do that. And you create generations from 1776 to 2025.
A lot of people kind of look at America and they see kind of two Americas. There is the America whereby you can go and create, and if you work hard and you're in the right kind of industry, you can create a lot of wealth. But then there's the kind of America that is left behind, that even if you work hard, if it's manual work, um, they are unable to kind of progress to the next levels. And with the health issues, because in America, I believe that the number one financial issue is health financial issues.
Again, two separate issues. People want to lump this together. On one hand, in America, you could wake up any day and change the course of your life. Period. Okay.
Well, a lot of
So,
people
so
say the same thing about like their country, like in the
no, no,
Western
no, no, no,
world.
no, 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 no. That's reality, and that is what you believe. Okay. There's no limit for anyone's potential. Because again, in our documents, we give you the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, not the where you're going to corral. Give the right to pursue. You got to pursue it to achieve it. We don't guarantee outcome. Okay, people get that confused. You know, if you get out of bed and you work hard, you are going to make it. The level that you make it, that all depends on you. Now, it ain't easy. Government doesn't give you the ability to take a month off for vacation. No, we don't do that. You know, we don't give you cradle to grave protection. No, we don't do that. You gotta work. You got a problem with working. Now you got a problem. That's a whole different conversation. Now, when you look at the cost of medicine, again, who got their hands in the till? You got to look at the pharmaceutical industry is in bed with the government. So that brings up price. That brings up cost. That's a whole different conversation. We can have the conversation separately. But don't think that America's bad for that. America is great. It's not perfect.
Fair enough. Other than kind of education, do you see America's challenges as right now as primarily cultural challenges or more economic, such as kind of inequality, debt, collapsing middle class or low wages, or is it you feel like more of a cultural thing?
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as equality. When people want to use equality, socialist countries, social democrat
No, you're right.
countries.
There's no equality. But
Okay, okay.
how unequal is it? Because there's a big
That's.
inequality,
I
there's
mean,
little
again,
inequality.
that's it depends on the individual. What do you want to do? What do you want to do for it? What's your drive? What's your ambition? Not everybody wants to be Rockefeller. Somebody just want to get up every morning, do their job, come home, sit in front of the TV, veg out, go to bed, do the same thing over again. If that's what you want to do, 2 + 2 = 4. What you put in, what you get out. That happens in America. What's bad? Not bad. What's different with socialist countries, democratic socialist countries, is that there is a net for people who want to do the less and still get the most out of it. They want to ride the wave of of another person's boat that has come across their wake. No, because if we all have our hands in the dirt to grow the vegetables in the field, we're all going to rise. I think Margaret Thatcher said it best. Socialism works until the government runs out of money. They ain't got a problem. Because you got everybody sitting on the side. Who's going to till the ground? Nobody. Because everybody sitting on the side. You can't have that. That's different. That's what's different in America. We're expected to do so. But if you choose not to do so, don't expect to be Warren Buffett.
I think the issue. I mean, what do you say to people who, you know, in like a single mom working two jobs, but still struggling to even like we're not talking about thriving here. We're just talking about surviving, because there's a lot of situations where because there is no net, um, you know, that situation is happening where they're even working two jobs, sometimes two and a half, you know, with a part time on the side, and it's still not kind of living in happiness. It's a challenge. It's a struggle.
It's a lot of things that is involved in that. You have the imposition of the income tax in the 1930s, which there was not no income tax prior to that, and the United States thrived. Um, some would say um, thrived too much. But the income tax and the way it's been implemented on the taxpayers forced the woman to work. Um, the value of the dollar has gone down since the 1930s, 1940s, when it was taken off of the gold standard. So it's a it's it's an economic issue, but also when you look at the example you gave for the single mother, did her being a single mother come out of her being married and then divorced, or did it come out her just marrying, just spitting out a child without a man? Then that comes with issue of choice at that point. So then you put yourself in that situation. But if we just look at just the economic side, the value of the dollar after it was taken off the gold standard has been a serious detrimental effect. Has had a detrimental effect on Americans' way of life. Because now that car that my grandfather paid 25,000 is now cost 125,000 or maybe 90,000. That same car made by the same material. Wood this year is the same wood that was available in 1940s. What's changed? The medium in which we purchased that material with is worth less, so it takes more to purchase it. So that has, as you can see, has had a serious detrimental effect on what individuals could buy things for, because now the medium that they use to purchase it, it costs more to purchase the item, and that's what a lot of people are facing this year, last year, and since we got off the gold standard.
Yeah, well, that's the issue, right? You know, prices are increasing of housing, of most things, while wages are not increasing as much, and so it's becoming a bigger gap, and it's becoming an unsustainable situation whereby people don't believe in the system anymore.
The issues with the wages are, of course, what are you choosing? Because if a person sees the situation as it is, they can be educated to take themselves above the situation, right? If they understand what's going on, you might got a problem, you know. So it depends on how you educate yourself. What situation do you put yourself in, to earn more money? Because if you know, being a waitress at a restaurant only affords you this much, and you continue to do that, whose fault is that at that time? in this country, because again, you could change your lifestyle whenever you get ready to, if you choose to do so. But it all depends on the choices that you make. Make bad choices, bad things are going to come out the end of that. Make good choices, good things will come out the end of that. In this country, I can't speak for any other country, but every day a person wakes up in the morning, they have the ability to change their projection in life if they choose to, if they start making better choices in life.
So Tony, how do we restore civic education, unity, and national purpose in the U.S.?
One house, one conversation, one city, one state at a time. We are so far down a rabbit hole because the progressives have taken over the pillars of what Americans used to trust to protect our traditions and our values. That's lost. I hate to say, because the educational system is so broken, and you have so many young people, no fault of their own, just caught up in the system. You have 90% illegitimate childbirth in the Negro community today. 90%, depends on who you talk to, or illegitimate childbirth in the Negro community, due to progressive policies.
What do you mean by due to progressive policies?
LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson, 1965. Number one, he made it so a woman getting government financial government assistance could not have a man at home. He changed, because at the time Republicans were getting the majority of the Negro vote. Lyndon Baines Johnson destroyed the church by making it so the tax exempt status 501c3 had a stipulation where the churches or nonprofits could not talk about political issues. So that neutered the church, which was the Negro community's basic foundation and form of education and information. So he destroyed that. Progressive policies make everybody weak because they remove the masculine ego, and put a more feminine caregiver, nanny state energy, ego, into the culture. So that's what I mean. The progressive movement policies have not only destroyed this country, feminized it, but has wrecked my community, the Negro community. And it's going to take a long time to reverse course. But first, it got to start with a desire to do so, and we're not there yet, as a Negro community or as a culture. Because who don't like getting free money?
Well, that's the issue, right? Because we see a similar situation over here where politics is dictated, or governments, or the political party that's put into power is based on how much money, free money, they're going to give.
It's not right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. It's not what's moral. How much money can I get?
Hmm.
You
And
you
that's
you
that.
you cannot build a strong culture, a morally founded culture on money, because you got to serve one God, as you
Yeah.
say.
But isn't that the weakness of democracy? Because you're always going to vote for. I mean, most people will vote for who will give them more free stuff.
Well, again, America was never meant to be a democracy. Y'all were, we weren't. Now, the United States government body, that's a democracy, DC. But America, you don't see democracy in any of our founding documents. Not a one. Wonder why is that? Because the founders understood what democracy was, just a hop, skip, and a jump from communism, tyranny. They read the history. John Locke, they read the history of cultures prior to the United States. That's why they didn't want no parts of that.
And so, what would that, just for the audience, if it's not a democracy and it's a republic, what is that? How different would that look like from now? What is the difference?
A democracy is mob rule. It's that analogy. One female, two hungry men, a democracy. I, I, the woman might win, but I wouldn't bet on it. And the republic, woman's going to win because the individual rights will always supersede that of the group. That's the difference.
So America has kind of moved away from being a republic and now as a democracy, which you see as a negative.
Big time. Because we were never meant to be a democracy. How can you be something that you were never intended to be? Unless you're conditioned to be that.
Well, things change, right? Like the Constitution has amendments, right? And so if you think that,
But you gotta have the people. You gotta have the people to understand first what the Constitution is. You gotta have the people to understand what their role is in the Constitution. Then you gotta have the people to be educated and informed. Jefferson always said the people had to be informed about what the politicians, the political creatures are doing in order to steer this boat correctly. With an ignorant population, where you have a population who pretty much checked out of the political mechanisms other than every second or fourth year, there's no win in that. Free people cannot be ignorant and expect to remain free. It's just the two cannot occupy the same space.
and unfortunately, the media is not helping; it's making things worse. Tony, it's been very interesting speaking with you.
I
I would love
appreciate
to
that.
continue the conversation.
Yeah.
As all things, there must be a start, middle, and end.
Yes, unfortunately, I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this.
Just this, lastly, for the for the person that's watching, what can they do to maybe take that first step to reclaim their own power and to change course for themselves and the country regarding this topic that we're discussing?
First, you got to recognize that something's very wrong. Everything starts there. If you think everything's going fine, everything's going fine. But if you think there's a problem, it's most people who have their eyes wide open and their ears wide open, you see that we're going down the wrong path. Once you find that, then pick up the Constitution. Find out what your role is in this. Find out what the government role is in that. Government is probably very, 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 very small in the impact of the average American life. That's not the case anymore. How can we get back to that? Again, every conversation, door to door, house to house, city to city, state to state. The United States of America, as we once known, all 50 United States, that's gone. Now it's community to community, neighbor to neighbor. That's how this is going to work going forward.
Awesome, Tony. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, for anybody who want to follow me, do so on all your social media platforms, Rumble, Twitter, Spotify. Or check me out on my website, project3open.com. Project, third spelled out, letter I, open, ed.com.